Hi, and welcome to Recovery His Way. We're on the campus of His Way in Huntsville, Alabama, and I'm sitting here again with our director, Tom Reynolds. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Stuart. Good to be
It
with
has
you.
been quite a while since the two of us have sat and talked about the program and how things are going. We've had a really good series of interviews with guys who have a long-term success in recovery, which I know is really a primary goal of ours.
Oh, absolutely. Our goal would obviously be for guys to go through this program and continue on their life and never really return for anything other than to visit. That kind of thing would certainly be our vision.
Yeah, and we see, unfortunately, a lot of the short-term bitter moments and difficulties, but to hear these guys share, struggles in their long-term recovery, but to know that not just their lives have been changed, but their families and all those around them is really something special.
Yeah, and one of the things I've liked about doing these is that it gives people a realistic perspective. I think it's easy to kind of think, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go through a program and never have a problem again. But the reality is, the addiction is born out of a series of struggles, and a person will respond to those struggles, and those things don't just all go away. And so they're learning different adaptations and different ways to manage those. And they're going to struggle through that, just like we all struggle through the challenges of life. Yeah,
and one of our struggles, our challenges as a program is we've only got a limited amount of space, and we feel the burden of a long waiting list, and sometimes can take up to 2 months for an individual to come in, and that's difficult when you know there are lives out there suffering and we have something to offer.
Right. I mean, it's one of the things, we just had a meeting a few minutes ago, and we have 56 guys on a waiting list. We have total room, for residents being here about 44. So we have, we could double this again, and not even catch everybody. And the waiting list is very difficult because usually about the time a person contacts us about coming to the program, at that moment they're ready. And when you come back around to them, that may have changed, or their circumstances may have even been dire at that time. That might have led to some really bad things happen in their lives. So.
Yeah, and we know that we can stay in touch with those guys in the meantime, but it's not really the same as being here on campus away from whatever situations that they might be in that's contributing to what's happening and really starting something fresh. And so I want to give an update to our listeners on one of the things we're hoping to advance who we are and to lessen that burden of the number of people waiting, and that is with our Atlanta program. And there's been a lot of work done on that since the last time we've talked about it here on the podcast. So if you will maybe share with us a little bit about where that stands.
It's really exciting where we're at today. It was a dream for a long time, one that we had hoped for, one that we had worked toward, one that we had even planned to at various times for it to happen that it wouldn't come through. And so, this most recent effort, things are getting traction. We're moving forward. So, we have a residential location. We have a anchoring church that's that's really embraced us in a great way. And we have some great leadership that has already moved over there. Jeremy and his wife moved over there in May. And then we had a big welcoming for them in June. And now the support staff are starting to move over there. The last one will be going this coming weekend. So we're getting cranked up and ready to start receiving residents, and they're working feverishly to get renovations done on the property and get furniture and get everything set up to start welcoming people. So it's an exciting time, and it really has been a blessing.
So let's talk a little bit about, we've had Jeremy on here talking about the Atlanta plans. What does that staff look like? And I know, but I want you to share with our listeners what that staff looks like and maybe what that means to you about who those people are.
Yeah, well, Jeremy, has been in our program for probably 11 years. I mean, he went through it, graduated, and then stayed on staff, and was certainly on staff here for at least 10, and has become kind of like a son to me. I mean, he's been so much a part of the ministry here, and really, he and Daryl, at the time that they kind of rose up into leadership, have really created a stability for this program that's allowed it to get where it is. Because we've had some good people here in the past, but it was always temporary. It was always short term, and it would, kind of would rise and fall and up and down with those things. But these guys being stable for a long period of time have really led to some constant and continuous growth that has been really good for the program. So the program has grown and matured a lot during their tenure. One of the things that I said years ago, anytime I was involved in church work or ministries like this, was that I really believe that the vision should be to extend the borders, expand our efforts and that type of thing. And of course, our vision statement, is to advance, Christ-centered programs, and to do it both through our resources and those kind of things, as well as encouraging other Christians to get engaged in this process and really become a unifying force in that direction. And we want to do that. I think we're starting to see it building here and developing a sense of continuity here and really trying to take that to the next step. And so one of the parts about that I always felt like was important was that in order for this program to continue to grow and mature, as well as help expand it, I really felt like we needed to take our best and send them to these locations where we start. Now, theoretically, that sounds great, right? Sounds like a great philosophy. It's another thing to actually have to execute it and see your most talented, your best people, the people that have really built a strong foundation here, all of a sudden be gone. And then not only are you expanding in some ways and you're missing them, but now you're facing kind of the weakening in some ways of your current situation, hoping that God's going to raise up some people to fill those gaps. And they may not have maybe the abilities that some of them that have left have. So that's a real challenge to face that. And so you kind of suffer doubly, not just with the loss of dear people, but then with the gaps of trying to get back to maybe even where you were.
Yeah, it's easier for Huntsville to say, let's just go hire someone to be the director in Atlanta and we'll help them work it out, because then we don't lose any of our resources. And yet here we are now faced with a changing staff here also.
Exactly.
Well, talk also about the other staff going to live on campus.
So we as we looked at it, we wanted Jeremy to be the director. He understood the heart. He's taught here. He's really been at the center of a lot of what we've done. So felt like he was definitely the most suited to direct and lead the program. Of course, we also sent over a guy named Chris Stone, who's has been in the program once before, completed it, and then come back and been through it a second time. But he's a very mature guy, has a lot of ability, particularly organizationally. And so he's really working out well. It's kind of the administrative side, which has really been important. So Jeremy's kind of the ministry side and the leadership part. Chris is kind of working on the administrative side with case management and the office stuff and the financial parts of it he's been working on.
And there's a lot that goes in on the back office type stuff. It's maybe hard to explain. If running any decent sized business, you always have that level, and that stuff tends to be hidden from maybe outsiders seeing that. And so what a valuable asset he's going to be. Right, and it's been critical. And it's also, it's good that we have, one of the things we wanted to do it with is that we had a lot of infrastructure here in Huntsville to support it. So it's not like they're just starting from scratch. We have a lot of good infrastructure and staff here that will help support Chris, and that he's been trained by now and can kind of be a conduit through which those resources can be executed. So I think it'll be a good fit. Then, dealing with the residential staff. So we have Josh Jennings has gone over there, who's been here near a year. And going over there is our evening resident manager. So that's a big task, primarily in the management of the guys, because when the guys, evening resident management, the guys aren't gone to work, they're at home, and you're dealing with them 24 kind of concentrated way. And so it's a very daunting task. There's a lot of disciplinary things that go through that, a lot of structure things. And so he's really getting prepared to do that. Right now he's helping a lot with just getting the facility ready and those kind of things right now. And then we have Arian Amai, who is going to be our daytime resident manager. So his job's mainly not just the structural part of it, but also the logistical part of it, handling the structure of getting guys to work back and forth and communicating and getting a lot of those executions done. So Arian will be doing that. And then we also have one of our guys who's in our ARG is transferring over there and going to continue to be in ARG, our Advanced Recovery Group. And in that also kind of work as kind of a house manager and that type of thing to kind of bring the grassroots kind of leadership that's needed, just with a guy in the program that's working the program still, but supporting others doing it. So I think we got a great staff and a great start. One of the things that happened a couple weeks ago
is my wife and I went over for the kind of the welcoming. At that time, Chris and Josh had just moved over, and Jeremy and his wife had been there. He and Ava had been over there a couple of weeks, and so we had a big kind of welcome to Atlanta, and that really made a big impact on me, because for a long time, for the way I saw this, I saw kind of our best people leaving, and I think certainly, you know, having that satellite is a great thing, and knowing that we're going there and doing that was really good. But it felt more like, in some ways, a loss, like we're losing key people here going away. But over there, particularly on Saturday night, John Nyland, who's leading this effort in Atlanta, who's the president of the board over there, had a lot of the supporters come to his house for this welcome. And we probably had 40 or 50 people over there for like a cookout. And seeing the enthusiasm, the excitement of mature Christian people rallying around these guys and supporting them, I remember stepping back. I mean, they asked me to say some things. I said some things and was involved in that way. We had a special prayer for the guys that were there and prayed over them. But as I stepped back and reflected on it, the thing that overwhelmed me and kind of brought me to tears was that this wasn't our losing, you know, 5 guys to them as much as it was we've just gained 50 people who are part of our family, who have the same passion for this that we share, and that the people that have, you know, been a part of this for so long have shared. We've now just expanded that to a whole nother network of people who all have people who have people and that type of thing. And so I just really caught a real vision for what our vision is in terms of really seeing that rallying point and getting Christians involved in this experience. So was really exciting to see that.
Yeah, in the heart of our vision statement is reaching out to mission-oriented churches, and so you get to feel their excitement over a mission field. And I know you've shared before about how a lot of similarities in seeing that kind of enthusiasm around your experience, and I had the same experience in our campus ministries, Christian ministries, and college campuses. And I'd like to share a little bit about how you're now seeing that enthusiasm in other people around this ministry, and maybe how that's the same and maybe how it's a little bit different.
Right. Well, yeah, I think one of the things, you know, I became a Christian through campus ministry, and that was my initial involvement in ministry, was through campus ministry. I was a campus minister in a number of places. That's what moved me around the country. And it was always exciting to be a part of that new beginning. You know, you get the new group and you're starting the new thing, and there's a lot of enthusiasm. College students, of course, have a lot of energy. And so there's a lot of excitement rallying around that. And even the church support of that was always exciting. In some places, you know, the campus ministry was really the centerpiece of even the entire church and what the church was doing. So it was a real rally point for that. And so it was exciting to see that. But I've been away from that now for 20 some years. And doing regular old ministry kind of stuff. But I guess for the first time in a long time, I felt like when I was with this group that there was that I was a part of that whole dream again, that vision, that excitement. And I think as I saw around, a lot of the people there were, you know, 40, 50-year-old people who, knowing some of their past, had been a part of a campus ministry experience at the past that they were excited about, but obviously have outgrown, and, you know, now they've had their own families, and a lot of their kids are now in college and that type of thing. And it's just almost like a renewal or a rebirth from them to kind of renew that zeal that they once had. And so I really saw that this ministry was really creating an opportunity for people who are no longer college age, no longer can kind of connect with that group as well, to find a passion, to find a place, to find a outlet for their talent, for their zeal in the kingdom. And this, I think, has become a great avenue for that. So that was exciting for me to see as well.
Why did you find in your experience in campus ministries why people wanted to get involved with those? What's the attraction to that, versus the same old ministry kind of thing?
You know, campus ministries to me is always exciting because you're hitting people at the most tender juncture in a person's life. They've just left their parents' influence. They're trying to decide who they're going to be really for the first time. And so, you know, while they're being exposed to all these new ways of thinking, obviously our college campuses are full of very diverse philosophies and viewpoints and worldviews and that type of thing, to make sure that the gospel message is one of the voices, and an attractive voice in that context was important to me. To help college students discover that. It's at a point in which they're trying to find themselves. So there's a lot of openness to new ideas and changing and developing a new trajectory for their life. And you think about it, during those college years, some of the most transformative decisions are made in a person's life. Their careers, which is going to define a lot of their financial situation, even where they live and those kind of things, as well as many times dating and marriage and family and all that kind of stuff. All of those decisions are bottled up in those very core few years. And
are very new to that individual.
Right.
It's not like they've been working on a plan, probably for the last 5, 7, all of a sudden, I'm out in a whole new set of experiences that are going to continue to shape you forever.
And so that's always exciting. Plus, the college campus is honestly filled with the leadership of our future nation. Our communities are going to be led by these people, and have an opportunity to have a voice with them and have an influence in their life for a key time in their life to really help set the trajectory of that, so that they're leading, and maybe their roles, whether they're community leaders, whether they're business leaders, or whatever their role is, that they're going to do it from a Christ-centered perspective is important.
And my guess is that at every place you have been with Campus Ministries, there's always been a group of older Christians who are equally as excited. They're residents there, they live there, but they catch that vision and that passion.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're mentors, and they're adopted parents, and all the different kinds of things you do.
Absolutely.
Because they're invigorated in seeing what's happening in these students' lives.
Absolutely.
That was my experience too, going through the campus ministry I did. And so you've likened this a little bit now to what can happen in these recovery ministries. And how do you see that as being similar?
Stuart, it was interesting. I was reflecting after having been in Atlanta and thinking about a lot of the people that were there. We kind of shared that campus ministry experience years before. And I was reflecting over just I wondered whether, we were so involved in the college students, and now we've shifted to this other ministry to people in desperate need that are trapped in addiction. Who are we talking to, and what is our opportunity there? And so one of the things I was curious about was just simply how many college students are there in America, and how many addicts are there in America? Are we have a target of more people, less people? What does that even look like? And so interestingly, I kind of just Googled that and found that the most recent U.S. Census said that we had 19.7 million college students on college campuses enrolled in college around this country. Which
paying someone or getting paid to go for an education.
Right. And so nearly 20 million young people on college campuses. And so that's a tremendous opportunity. I mean, 20 million people that you can have in a very located situation that you can focus very attentive and directed energy toward is a great opportunity for the church. And I hope more churches will grasp that opportunity and pursue it, because it's a wonderful and amazing. I know it was transformative, has always been in my life, and I know it was in yours.
For sure.
And so I'd love to see churches rise up and do that. But the reality is it's still limited. I mean, you went to Auburn. There's a church in Auburn, obviously, but there's not a college campus in every little town.
Yeah.
And so there's very few churches that even have the opportunity to reach out to that particular group. So I began thinking about, okay, so how many addicts are there? And I found out that the census said too that we had, interestingly, 19.7 million addicts.
So to the rounding error, the same amount.
Right. Virtually the same amount
that we can count.
Right. And the reality is, we don't know how many other addicts are out there who have not enrolled yet, right? Like in a college campus setting. Right. So, there's probably vastly more than that. But that was what the census was counting, people admitting that was a core issue of their life, and we had some kind of record of that. So it just struck me that, wow, very similar size patterns. The unique differences are, I think, a couple. One, every church has a community of addicts outside their door, and sometimes in their own pews. That's going to be true for every church in America. Not just those who are uniquely located in college towns, kind of thing, but it's going to be in it for everybody. And so every church has the opportunity to be engaged in this ministry. And secondly, while working with college students, they aren't always aware of their need at that time. You know, they're kind of feeling themselves. They're full of life and vitality, and don't necessarily feel a great need in their life to reevaluate their life or seek assistance from God or spiritual help and that kind of thing. Whereas people trapped in addiction are very desperate. They're very aware. They're very alert of the fact I don't have to convince a guy who comes to his way that they have a spiritual problem. They all know they have a spiritual problem. And they may be to different degrees open to the spiritual solution,
right,
but they're all very aware that there's a spiritual problem. And so the opportunity, I think, is incredible in terms of reaching this very vast number of people in our country, and that I would say are in most regards equally talented to those on a college campus. I mean, some of the brightest people I've met are people who are struggling with addiction. So it's not just for, you know, the despondent and destitute or poor and homeless. It's also for the talented, intelligent, smart, and very capable people who have been sidelined by this great tragedy.
I think it's a really important point. You know, going through the individuals that are going over to start on a day-to-day basis His Way Atlanta, you know, those are all graduates of our program, right, and that's you know, that comes with a certain, you know, thought about who they were, but they've gone through this transformation, but they all are talented, bright, capable men, and that didn't change because they were addicts. And it makes me wonder if to the church who is looking for a mission, if we feel like, oh, a mission to the campus, boy, there's a lot more bang for our buck than for reaching out to an addict. And because it does come with the stereotype and the baggage and maybe more hassle, and, you know, it's not as fun, you know, to get down and work with an addict. And that's a shame, that stigma that comes with, you know, this kind of ministry.
And one of the great things about reaching out to the addict community is that every addict is tied to a lot of other people that have been damaged by their relationship with the one struggling with addiction. And so when you reach that one individual, the opportunity to have influence with their spouses, with their children, with their parents, with their family members is also a great opportunity. And I think in some ways far greater than the opportunity you would have with a college student. And so that becomes another avenue in terms of the church really reaching. They can really reach a whole family through this, because I found many times that the addict has become kind of the lightning rod person of that family. And so it's because they're now at the center, their struggles became a part of the center of that family. They also can be a part of the solution that can also be disseminated into that family. So they become kind of a door or a window into the family in a unique way. And so the church, I really think, could grasp a vision for how it's not just reaching, you know, one or two addicted individuals, but it can really be about reaching their families and their extended family.
It makes me think of several of stories in Jesus's life, the woman at the well in Samaria, the man at the tombs, and that were on the margins. They were outcast clearly, or trying to stay away, and yet transformation to the whole community comes through those situations, and we get a chance to be a part of that. And it's a blessing to be able to bring that to Atlanta. I want to speak also once more. You mentioned, you know, there's a group in Atlanta led up by John Nyland and others on the board there that are ready to receive this, and also churches ready to rally behind this. So it's not like we're starting brand new. We have some of our best coming that have come through His Way and kind of understand the program. We also have a group there ready to receive and to support.
And a lot of those people there not only have been involved in ministry through campus ministry, but after that have been involved with various churches doing some kind of substance abuse kind of ministry that was not as intensive as what His Way is going to create in terms of a residential program, but places where they had maybe think programs at their church that, you know, people who are struggling with addiction could attend and they could connect with and interface with. And so there's a lot of people with a lot of experience as well, not just starting from scratch. So yeah, the opportunity in Atlanta to me is incredible because the possibilities are endless. Obviously the population's a lot larger, and then certainly the need is pressing in that community. but also the resources there are incredible. People have experience. People are fired about it. I mean, we already have a number of churches actively supportive. This, when we started His Way, we didn't have in Huntsville here, we didn't have near the support and resources that they're starting with already in Atlanta. So it's exciting to see what God can really bring about there. One of the things that's exciting to me is that, we talk about the vision being a rallying point. I know Clyde Jones, who originally founded this, one of the big things he wanted to see was Christians coming together, that sometimes they get divided over, you get kind of isolated in your little silo churches, and we're all kind of bickering about little minutia and doctrine and those kind of things. And yet we all agree that this need, desperate people who need hope, we all share in that. And so getting away from those kind of siloing kind of things and getting back to the mission is really what this can create. And it's exciting to see it, because it wasn't, at John's the other night, it wasn't just one church, it was 3 or 4 churches of people who are all engaged in this process and supporting one another. And so it's also uniting the church in ways that maybe other things couldn't. And so I think it's exciting to see that unity happening around this mission.
Totally. And to that kind of response and that reception and that support already exploding makes that there's a real future here, real hope to grow this. So what would you say to, maybe if this reaches the ears of someone who wants to get involved in their churches, trying to maybe breathe some new life into their outreach and their mission, what can they do to start that journey? Well,
I mean, certainly the residential program and things like that we've done here in Atlanta are certainly great opportunities. Those are pretty big tasks. Finding a property and getting, staff of people and that kind of thing, food and logistics and transportation, it becomes a daunting responsibility. But there's a lot you can do in the community. I mean, simply getting to be aware of your AA meetings and going and supporting those. I mean, AA meetings are open to all. And so you can go and you can connect and build some relationships with people who are desperate and begin to build bridges. I think the best way I know, having not gone through addiction myself, the best way I've known to connect is just with my ears, just with listening, hearing their stories, and being willing to just have a conversation with them that connects the message of the gospel to those needs. So if anybody's interested in this, you can certainly reach out to us. We'd be glad to offer any resources we can in terms of material. Encourage churches to start small groups. Originally, that's how we started, with just some small groups. Today we have our rediscovery program, where we have some non-residential options, as well as people can get involved in ways that they can support and reach out and connect with this hurting community. One of the things that is tragic and doesn't happen as much on college campuses is that while 20 million or so are in each group, in the last year alone, well over 80,000 of those people have died of simply opioid overdoses. That doesn't include the accidents and the traffic accidents, the crime, the murder, all the other things that are also associated with this lifestyle. So, saving people from that terrible fate is an important part of what I think can bring to every community.
Yeah, and my guess is almost every community of any size will have groups working in this area. And so maybe just getting involved, finding out who the nonprofits are, and lend your time and your resources to help, and you'll probably see needs just develop, and you don't have to start from scratch.
Right.
And just start taking your faith into someone else's experience. And I mean, I've said it before, and it hits me every time in the moment, that if we really believe what we profess about the life-changing, eternal changing power of the Spirit, and through the sacrifice of Christ and the mercy of God, then we can bring that into other people's lives, and things are going to happen. Right. And it's not going to be of our own doing. It's going to be because we are allowing God to work.
Amen.
And we get to see it here, and it's a blessing. And so it's exciting that we're going to see it in Atlanta and be a part of that. And we expect to be doing this more, I think, right? We're not taking this out of our vision statement to expand Christ-centered recovery.
I'm interested in talking to any church, anytime, any location, any individual that God has put this desire on their heart. We'd be glad to see if we can support them and rally behind them and supply with them whatever they need to help create this same kind of opportunity in their community.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing with us today, and it's exciting times.
Thanks.
And thanks for joining us today on His Way Recovery. If you'd like to know more, find out information about our resources and about what's going on in Atlanta, you can check out our website at hiswayinc.org.